Right, hello everybody. Welcome to my presentation. Now, this is a different presentation, not usual my home automation. This is to show people and promote the solar side of the business. So, I'm going to not make this too long, and so it'll be nice and quick, and hopefully give you plenty of information that you need to make a decision. So what we're going to talk about is the solar and battery backup systems. As you're well aware, the cost of electric and gas has really gone up nearly threefold in the last 12 months or so. So what we can do is to help reduce our outgoings is by generating our own electric. So that's what this one's about, just saving money on electricity. Unfortunately, there is a cost involved, but that cost is, you would have to lay that out initially. However, saying that, you will recoup that money, usually, depending on the system size and roof space, etc., which we're going to be talking about, anywhere up to around about 8, 9, 10 years. Okay, so let's crack on with the next thing. So what we're going to talk about are two things. We're going to be talking about solar, and we're going to be talking about battery storage. Usually we would put both together as a fresh install. However, sometimes if you've already got an existing solar system from years ago, you can just do the battery storage instead. Okay, so this applies to everybody. Solar, as you all know, green energy, produce your own from the sun. You're generating everything yourself to help reduce electric bills, and of course it's also good for the environment. For battery storage size is when you are connected it to solar only. So we're not going to talk about the other tariffs just yet, but whenever you start to export electric, so if you've already got a solar system and or you're getting one fitted, if there's too much sun or energy being produced, rather than it going back to the grid, you can actually store that in the battery. So that's what the battery storage is there for, to store the excess solar. As I mentioned earlier, charge batteries to use for off-peak. So if you are on economy 7 tariffs or EV tariffs, where they give you off-peak energy at a reduced rate, you can actually top up your batteries overnight and then use that energy during the day. Okay, so that's another option. So theoretically speaking, you don't need solar for that. You just get batteries only. However, it does mean that you will always have to be on some form of economy 7 stroke or EV tariff to be able to benefit from that. The other thing about battery storage is, depending on how we connect it up, it can actually be used to power your house in the event of electric grid going down. Okay, but as the inverter system that I use does have an EPS port, which is the emergency power supply port, so we can actually connect things up to that, and you're able to have, say for example, emergency lighting, so that it would always work. All right. So what do you need? What do you want? Well, do you want solar? Do you want battery storage? Basically, solar does depend on a few things, whereas battery storage are not as much on the roof space. So roof, as I mentioned, roof space. You need roof basically to put the solar on, and that's because the higher it is, the better it is. It also, then you've got to look at any shading issues on, have you got trees around it? Is the if you're putting on a garage roof, is there a building around it, the rest of the house, etc. It is a bigger outlay initially, and you can't really do a small solar and then add on a few more solar panels afterwards. It doesn't work like that. It does cost a lot more because of scaffolding costs and roofers, etc. Batteries, on the other hand, is you can install in single batteries because it is an expandable system. So the one I use come in 3.2 kilowatt batteries. So nice small bite-sized chunks, and we can add up to 8 batteries to give you roughly 25.2 worth of storage. No need for panels, as I mentioned, because we can do off-peak or EV charging. But you would need, like I said, you do need off those tariffs. And as I mentioned earlier, you can be used as off-grid backup systems as well. So, what's best? Well, the answer really is both of them. They've both got the uses, and in what I've been doing recently is installing both lots. That's what I've been doing for the last few months, is installing solar with batteries for everybody. And I have done a few systems where we have added battery storage to existing solar system, and to you guys, it does not affect your feed-in tariff, as we are not touching that system at all. Okay, so you'll carry on earning from your feed-in tariff, but you're now able to store it all as well, the excess energy, and use it at a later time. So how does it work? So basically, we have our solar panels connected to a inverter, or in this case, a hybrid inverter. So panels will send DC power into the inverter. This will then be used in the house. So I've done it as a two-way thing, and the reason is because we can actually use it to charge the batteries as well if you wish to. And then we've got our battery storage, and again, it's a two-way. Initially, what would happen is the batteries will just be supplying power to the inverter, which then goes into the house. And if we're charging on the off peaks, then it goes the other way around. Okay. But if you've got battery storage only, then we use a charge controller, connected to the batteries, which are then connected to the house, and it's something like that. So it's a two-way process with the batteries, and a two-way process on the house. When we're discharging, the current goes so basically it flows from the batteries to the charge controller to the house. But when we're charging at the off-peak times, it starts off in the house, goes into the charge controller, and then flows into the batteries. Solar use. Right. I use the Lux hybrid system and the Green Links batteries. And with that, we get a nice little app that goes with it. And these are just example shots of house being used. So when basically we've got PV power and the house power is not as much. So we've got the sun PV providing power to the house, but it's more power than required. So instead of going back to the grid like it would have done, it's now going into the batteries and starting charging the batteries. Okay. And then of course the grid is on 0 as we're not using it at all. Then solar use and exporting. So this one, the batteries are now full. It's been charging all day. The house hasn't been used much. So now everything has gone and they're just fully charged. There's nowhere else for the power to go. So it would then actually end up being used in the property and exporting out. This is where your smart export guarantee kicks in. And that's when you'll start getting paid the smart export guarantee rates. It usually is around about 5 pence at the moment, and it goes to as much as 15 pence, depending on which tariff you go with. Solar only. So this is when batteries are dead or not required, grid is dead, and basically the solar is just about enough to feed the house, and that's just solar only. That's quite rare for the solar to match the house, but you never know, it can happen. And then the next one is the solar and the batteries. So this time round, the house demand is quite high. We're coming towards sunset where or cloud cover, and there's not much solar being produced. So it needs the top. So the batteries then make up the difference. So again, no grid power, and the house is using PV power and battery power. And then finally, solar plus grid. So this is batteries down to before, by the way, this shows 10-11%, but now the batteries have been updated and the inverters have been updated, so we go down to 5% now, because the depth of discharge on these can go as low as 3%. But we leave it to a safe 5% due to it needs a little bit of trickle power within the batteries. So now we've got PV power coming in and not enough battery power. The house is using a lot, so it has to import the difference from the grid. So that is what you pay for. So you're using 1.8 kilowatts or 1800 watts, but you're only paying for around 1100 watts because the rest is coming from the sun. Okay, so that's just a quick overview on the different variations. Now I'm going to show you some slides of installations we've done. So here, PV hybrid inverter, a 4 battery system, all connected in here. So, and that's just another option. And then here, this cable then goes all the way to the panels. On this one, this was actually an existing solar system, so this part was already done for me. So like I said, we can actually add battery backup systems. So what we did is we've added a dual hybrid system, dual charge controller, parallel charge controller system with 8 batteries here. And to give him basically 25 kilowatts worth of storage and parallel output. So he now can have up to 7 kilowatts worth of instantaneous output in one go. This was like a farmhouse and they had like a heated pool, etc. So they did use a lot of power, and that's why he wanted it that way. Here we got an example of a 6-panel system on a roof. This was, if I remember correctly, Doncaster. The next one is, this one is again a hybrid inverter, 4 batteries all connected together, and that's it. So this one was another 6.9 kilowatt system, I believe, and I think I've got the picture of the roof on that on one of my other slides where it was connected to. And then this one is this is a big one. So this is actually a 30-panel system, and it's on a nice big roof. It used to be a former nursing home, which has now become a residential property. Now, because they've got 3-phase, we were able to put in 12 kilowatts worth of panels, and then we had a separate inverter, and then we've got 3 charge controllers and 6 batteries for the different phases. And so that's how this one works. So we can produce up to 12 and use up to 12 and then store 6 to 18 kilowatts worth, or 6 kilowatts per phase on this one. And this is here's another example of charge controller with batteries on an existing solar system with who had the feed-in tariff. So we just added this in to help him store all that power. The earlier picture I showed you with the inverter and 4 batteries, and that's their house here, this one. And that's their neighbour's house, which we also did the job on. And this one is a garage roof, which I mentioned earlier, but this one, as the sun is here, so the sun actually rises, goes all the way around like that, and sets on the other side. So this one will have pretty much sun all day long, and that's the low level sun here because it's a winter sun, and in the summer it'll be a lot higher, so they'll have this will be a lot brighter. So it's quite bright here now in January, but come summer these will be nice and bright. So next steps, what do you want to, how do we go about going forward with this? Well, for the solar side, and then of course we've got the battery side of things. So depending on what you're after, if you're only after solar plus batteries or batteries only. So I start off with address and postcode. With that, I can then do a desktop survey. This will then give me a guide quote. as to how much it will be on your particular roof. If you are happy with the ballpark figure, I then come out and do an actual roof measurement. And once the roof measurement's done, then I'll be able to produce a finalized quotation for you. And then the paperwork will be sent off. You can then review that. And if you wish to go ahead, then we start the installation procedure. If you are wanting to do batteries only, then we can base that on, again, we calculate the usage based on your existing solar, existing house usage, potential EV tariffs or off-peak tariffs. We can then do a guide quote again, and then we do a survey. This survey is more for determining where the batteries are going to be installed and cable routing, etc. Again, we do the final quote, and if that's accepted, then we do get on with the installation. As usual, the biggest question: how much will this cost me? The problem is, it is quite unique. Everyone is, because properties are different and size of the roof is different, usages are different, etc. It is difficult to say, but so far I have been averaging around £11,000 for a 6.9 kilowatt system with a 9.6 kilowatt worth of batteries system, and that seems to be the general quote for everybody around the area within Leeds for me. That's for a south-facing roof. It gives you a payback of around about 6 years. If you're an east-west roof, it ups it to around about 8 years. But again, it all depends on occupancy, usages, etc., etc. So these are just average ballpark figures. If you want to know more, that's my email address and my phone or WhatsApp number. No obligation, give us a call, and we'll be able to get you the guide prices and guide quotes, etc. And that's it. If you've got any questions or anything like that, again, give me a call or email me, and I'll be able to sort that out for you. So that's it for now. And I'll see you. My next video will be back on the normal smart home market. Okay, thanks for watching, and bye for now.